So, if you're heading up into the Sierra de Guadarrama this week, your biggest danger really isn't, getting lost on a ridge.
Right. It's not rolling an ankle on a descent either.
Exactly. I mean, the biggest hazard out there right now is actually a microscopic venom-filled harpoon. And the craziest part is, it's left behind by an insect that technically isn't even in the trees anymore.
Yeah, it honestly sounds like science fiction. But it's the current biological reality of the Spanish pine forests right now. When you step onto a trail, you're stepping into this wildly active environment.
And nature doesn't really care about static trail maps, right?
It absolutely doesn't.
Which is exactly why we're kind of throwing out the standard tourist brochure for today's deep dive. We know you've got hiking plans, and since today is June 21, 2026.
Prime summer hiking season.
Oh, absolutely the peak. So we are handing you a customized biological travel guide. We've pulled together this massive stack of real-time sources just for you. We're talking the latest ecological status reports, localized pest control data straight from the Comunidad de Madrid, and the most current schedules for the local park programs.
Yeah, and we really have to start with the most infamous resident of those woods. I mean, the creature responsible for those microscopic harpoons you mentioned.
The pine processionary caterpillar.
Mhm.
I mean, just the name makes anyone who hikes in Spain shudder.
Oh, for sure.
You just picture those massive, ghostly, silken tent cities up in the branches and those toxic nose-to-tail lines of caterpillars crossing the paths. It's like a fuzzy, venomous train.
It's the ultimate hike ruiner. But, if you look at the biological data for today, like right now in late June, the situation is entirely different than what most people fear.
Okay, different how?
Well, that dangerous marching phase, the highly visible, super stressful migration across the ground that kind of dominates February and March, that is officially over.
Oh, thank goodness.
Yeah, the caterpillars have already come down from the canopy and they've buried themselves underground.
Wait, okay. So if they're buried underground, the wood should be clear, right?
Okay.
But the reports we have from the forestry agencies are incredibly active right now. So you're telling me it's not an all clear?
Far from it, actually. We're simply in a new phase of the life cycle. The processionary goes through a complete metamorphosis underground. So since there are no active caterpillars marching, what we have instead is the adult moth phase.
Oh, wow. So they're moths right now.
Right this second. The mature moths are emerging from the soil. They're actively flying through the canopy, mating, and laying the tiny eggs in the pine needles that will eventually become next year's hungry caterpillars.
Okay, so if you're out there on the trail today, you aren't dodging lines of venomous caterpillars on the ground. You're mostly just sharing the woods with flying moths. But there is this very obvious, very alarming visual legacy left behind. Like when you look up at the tree crowns, especially if you're looking at the mountains from down in the city, the pines look completely devastated.
They really do.
The crowns are totally stripped of needles. They're brown. I mean, I saw the botanical photos in our sources, and my first thought was just, we're walking into a graveyard. These forests look dead.
Yeah, defoliation on that scale is shocking to see. I mean, a caterpillar colony can strip a branch bare in a matter of days.
But reading through the recovery statistics in these reports, it kind of changes the perspective completely. Because they don't actually look sick, they just look stripped.
Right.
It seems less like a terminal illness and more like a really horrific temporary haircut.
A terrible haircut is honestly the perfect way to put it. It is absolutely not a death sentence for the tree.
But how does a tree survive losing all of its needles? Because, needles are how it photosynthesizes. If you strip a plant's leaves, it usually just starves.
Well, it comes down to evolutionary history. These specific pine trees have actually evolved alongside the processionary caterpillar for millennia. So they have a built-in biological contingency plan.
Oh, really? Like a backup system?
Exactly.
Yeah.
As long as the trees aren't dealing with other compounding lethal factors, like, say, a severe fungal infection or a bark beetle infestation, they have stored energy reserves in their root systems and trunks.
Okay.
Specifically, if they get sufficient rainfall, those bare, chewed-up crowns will flush again. They'll actually push out brand new secondary growth in late June and into July.
Wow. So the trees are incredibly resilient. They're going to bounce back from this terrible haircut, and the active caterpillars are gone. But here is where we need to get back to those microscopic harpoons.
Yes.
Because this is highly critical for your safety. We need to pivot to the biggest warning in our stack of reports today, and that specifically concerns your pets. Even though the caterpillars have vanished underground and turned into moths, their venomous legacy is basically still waiting on the ground.
Yeah, the danger from the processionary doesn't just walk away when the insect metamorphoses. The primary threat actually comes from their urticating hairs.
Which are what exactly? Are they just like prickly fuzz?
Oh, it's far worse than that. They are a highly sophisticated defense mechanism. Imagine microscopic, hollow fiberglass needles filled with a histamine-liberating protein called thaumatophon.
That sounds horrible.
It is. They're barbed, meaning once they lodge into tissue, they resist being pulled out, and they're extremely brittle.
So if a dog sniffs one,
The hair shatters. It shatters right inside the moist tissue of the dog's nose or tongue, and it releases that venom directly into the mucous membranes, causing immediate severe inflammation.
oh my God.
And in terrible cases, you can see actual necrosis of the tongue. And remember, thousands, if not millions, of these hairs are shed by the caterpillars as they grow. They're just left behind, woven into the debris of their old, deteriorating silk nests up in the branches.
And as those nests weather the spring storms, they fall apart. Like the wind blows, the rain hits, and those tiny harpoons just drift down to mix in with the pine needles on the forest floor.
Exactly. Which turns the ground itself into a passive hazard zone. A curious dog sniffing around in the trailside litter is literally putting its nose into a minefield of lingering venom.
Okay, so the actionable takeaway for your hike is this. Keeping your dog on a short lead in the pine litter is an absolute non-negotiable necessity right now. You cannot let them root around in the brush.
We actually have localized data from the Comunidad de Madrid that highlights several specific high-risk zones where this ground-level danger is particularly concentrated right now.
Oh, where exactly?
Well, if your route takes you anywhere near La Pedriza, up the Puerto de Navacerrada, or around Miraflores, a leash is mandatory. The risk of inhalation or ingestion of those lingering hairs from the old nests in those specific areas is simply too high to risk.
It's terrifying, honestly, but knowing the mechanics of it keeps you safe. Now, understanding that localized danger on the trail is one thing, but to be a truly well-informed hiker, we really need to zoom out a bit.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I was looking at the scale of this issue, and the sheer volume of intervention happening in the forest right now is just mind-boggling.
It really is. To give you a sense of the scope, the 2026 Comunidad de Madrid mitigation and tracking operations covered a staggering 65,000 hectares.
65,000 hectares. I mean, that is essentially an entire regional landscape requiring active monitoring. And what's fascinating in the data is that they aren't just spraying the entire mountain range blindly. They're targeting very specific pockets of the forest.
Right, because the highest presence of the processionary and therefore, the highest concentration of those chewed-up crowns is highly localized by the tree species.
Yeah, so which trees are getting hit?
In the Sierra de Guadarrama, where you were heading, the pest is hitting the Pino resinero, the maritime pine, the hardest. Meanwhile, if you look toward the drier east and southeast of the Madrid region, the Pino carrasco, the Aleppo pine, is taking the brunt of the impact.
Wait, hold on a second. I'm looking at this climate data, and the official reports are blaming the current massive surge on warm, dry autumns.
Yeah.
But that feels like a massive delayed reaction.
Yeah.
How does a warm autumn in 2025 lead to an explosion of defoliated Pinot Resinero in the spring of 2026?
Yeah.
Like, what are these bugs doing all winter that makes them so indestructible by March?
Basically, they're eating, and they are growing when they shouldn't be. Normally, when a cold November hits, the temperature drops and the caterpillar's metabolism just shuts down. They huddle in little tents just trying to survive the freezing nights.
Right.
But a warm autumn, that extends their active feeding window by weeks, sometimes even months. They gorge themselves before the winter freeze ever sets in, so they grow larger, they get stronger, and they experience a drastically lower winter mortality rate.
Okay, so temperature dictates their size and survival. I get that.
Right.
But what about the dry part of the warm, dry autumn equation? Like, why does a lack of rain matter to a bug that just eats leaves?
Well, it matters deeply to the tree. This is where we get into the tree's immune system, which is fascinating.
Oh, really?
Yeah. When a pine tree is healthy and hydrated, it maintains high turgor pressure, which is internal water pressure. If a boring insect or a caterpillar tries to chew into the bark or the needles, the tree uses that pressure to flush the wound with sticky, toxic resin. It physically pushes the bug out and seals the brooch.
Oh, wow. So resin isn't just sap. It's like a pressurized defensive weapon.
Precisely. But during a dry season, the tree falls into drought stress. It loses that internal water pressure, so it simply cannot produce or mobilize the resin needed to fight back.
Oh, man.
Yeah, you combine that vulnerable, defenseless tree with caterpillars that are feeding longer and growing larger due to the warm weather, and you create a perfect storm.
The caterpillars essentially face practically no natural barriers. So more of them survive the winter to march in the spring, which leads to the massive 65,000-hectare defoliation we're seeing right now.
Exactly.
Which means the landscape you're walking through today is literally a direct physical record of the climate from 6 months ago.
Yes. And because this insect is practically a living thermometer, we don't even have to guess where those climate impacts are hitting hardest. The Comunidad de Madrid has actually mapped this thermal footprint out.
Oh, that's incredibly
They publish official Curvas-de-Vuelo flight curves and affectation maps annually right on their institutional site.
And this isn't just historical data either. It's operational intelligence. The agentes forestales, the forestry agents, they're out there physically monitoring the woods and posting the live risk. I mean, the 2026 map features 568 actively monitored rodales, which are specific forest stands.
Yeah, and we really want you to have this tool in your pocket. You literally just search the phrase, Processionary Comunidad de Madrid Curvas de Vuelo. Pull that up on your phone, and you can map out your exact risk before you ever leave the house.
In fact, we actually did this for you. Based on your location in San Sebastián de los Reyes, we can trace the closest high-risk pine belts for your drive right now.
So looking at the latest 2026 maps, the nearest major affectation zones start right near the city, at the Dehesa de Navalcarbon and the Monte de Viñuelas.
From there, if you drive north up the A1 highway toward the mountains, you'll hit the next major high-risk belts around Puerto Viejo and Miraflores.
And finally, as you gain altitude and hit the real hiking trails, the entire Navacerrada slope is showing heavy impact. That is the corridor you really need to be biologically aware of as you travel.
Now, normally when we talk about venomous hares, defenseless trees, and high-risk zones, the natural instinct is to say, okay, I'll just hike somewhere else. I'll just avoid the woods entirely.
Sure, that makes sense.
But we want to suggest a completely different approach. Rather than avoiding these areas, why not turn this incredible ecological reality into an active educational adventure?
Because there is a massive difference between walking blindly through a forest and actually understanding the language it's speaking, and there are phenomenal, entirely free resources available right now to help you do exactly that.
Yeah, we dug into the Parque National Sierra de Guadarrama programs, specifically the CENEAM program that's running this spring and summer. This is happening on the Segovian side of the mountains, the Vertiente Segoviana over in Valsaín.
And the CENEAM program is brilliant because it's structured to offer different depths of engagement depending on what you want. On Saturdays, they run rutas guiadas, which are guided routes focusing on the physical exploration and geography of the park.
Nice.
Then on Sundays, they shift gears and host excursiones didácticas, which are much deeper, highly thematic excursions focused on specific biological elements.
And a quick but really vital note for dog owners, since we just terrified you a few minutes ago. Dogs actually are allowed on the Saturday rutas guiadas.
Oh, that's great to know.
Yeah. You just have to keep them on a leash, which we already established is completely non-negotiable right now anyway for their safety. And you must notify the organizers by email in advance so they know a pet is joining the group.
Perfect. And I mean, the caliber of these programs is unmatched. You are walking with experts who truly know this ecosystem's mechanics inside and out. They've just recently finished walks covering iconic areas like Siete Picos, El Puerto de la Fuenfría, and a highly specialized birding route called Aves de Valsaín.
Which brings us to the immediate opportunities for you. Looking at the schedule, there are two incredible options happening next weekend. Saturday, June 27 at 10 a.m., there's a route called Mirando a las Cumbres, looking at the peaks.
But if we connect everything we've been uncovering today about the processionary, the climate, and the forest health, the absolute ultimate recommendation is the Sunday walk.
Oh, hands down.
Sunday, June 28 at 10:00 a.m. is the Excursión El Mundo de los Insectos, the excursion into the world of insects.
That is the one. This specific walk is completely dedicated to covering the processionary and other forest pests in detail.
And what's so special about this is that you aren't just hearing theory in some visitor center. You are out there on the dirt with actual park ecologists looking directly at the affected landscape.
Right.
They'll walk you through the entire interconnected story of the processionary moth, the impacts of the autumn drought we discussed, and they'll actually explain the forestry management tactics they use, like thinning the tree density to help the remaining pines recover their water pressure.
So we've laid out the precise, customized logistics for you based in SS Reyes. Here is your playbook for next weekend. It's only a 35-minute drive up the mountain to Puerto de Navacerrada, From there, you join this exact insect walk in Valsaín. You get a world-class, expert-led ecological tour, and it is completely free.
But because it is free and the quality is so high, places are strictly limited. You really have to follow their booking rules.
All right, so inscription for any given walk opens the Monday before the activity. So for that June 28 walk, that means registration opens tomorrow. You book via the Central de Reservas de Parques Nacionales online.
And they ask for basic common courtesy. Because these ecologists are freely giving their time, they are ruthless about no-shows.
As they should be. If you secure a spot but realize you can't make it, cancellations must be made by Friday at 14:00. That's 2 p.m. Grab a pen because you'll want to save this just in case. You can call them at 921-12-000. That's 921-12-0013. Or shoot an email to bocadelasno, that's BOCADELASNO, at opn.es.
Boca de Lasno.
Yeah, it literally translates to mouth of the donkey, which is fantastic. Just don't be the person who ghosts a free park ranger.
Now, if heading over the pass to the Valsaín side doesn't fit your schedule, there are definitely alternatives closer to home on the Madrid side. You can check the Red de Centros de la Comunidad de Madrid at www.comunidad.madrid. All summer long, they run sendas, talleres, and charlasso trails, workshops, and talks in La Pedriza, the Valle de la Fuenfría, and Peñalara.
And looking a bit further ahead, during July and August, CENEAM also runs free summer paseos guiados that expand beyond just biology, focusing on the landscape, history, and popular culture of the mountains.
It's just an incredible wealth of resources designed to connect you to the realities of the environment.
So let's synthesize this journey we've been on today. We started with a classic travel anxiety, picturing the toxic march of the processionary caterpillar ruining your hike.
Right.
But by digging into the biological mechanisms, we learned that while the marching phase is over and the moths are currently flying, the real danger has just shifted to the ground.
Exactly. We uncovered the mechanics of those, but most importantly, you now know that these trees are incredibly resilient and are actively recovering.
And we've given you the tools to turn all this knowledge into action. You now have a direct line to a free, expert-led ecological tour next weekend. But remember the urgency. To get on that June 28 insect walk in Valsaín, you need to act fast. Inscriptions open tomorrow, Monday.
And as you lace up your boots and head out on that trail next weekend, there is something you are going to notice. When you're out there on Sunday with the ecologists, they are going to point something wild out to you.
Oh, tell us.
You'll be standing there looking at a highly stressed, chewed-up pine standa monoculture of Pinot resinero that was planted decades ago for timber and resin harvesting. It's essentially a giant, uninterrupted buffet for a pest like the processionary.
Right.
But right next to it, you will see a lush, thriving, mixed forest of oaks, pines, and underbrush. The visual contrast between the diverse forest, which naturally breaks up that buffet, and the devastated pine monoculture is incredibly stark.
Wow. It completely changes how you view a quote-unquote natural landscape. You realize you aren't just looking at nature, you're actually looking at the consequences of historical forestry decisions colliding with modern climate shifts.
And it leaves you with a profound realization to mull over while you walk. What does that visual contrast tell us about how we should be planting and managing our forests in an era defined by warm, dry autumns?
That's a completely different way to look at the trees. Because a truly great travel guide doesn't just tell you where to walk, it changes how you see the world once you get there.